Hello, this is Becky Thomas Iyer, and it's good to be back. Today's podcast has been born out of a concern for the youth and the millennials. They are honestly the most amazing generation. However, if we are honest, there are some serious concerns too. First off, let me give you a summary of this great book I read many years ago. Perhaps you've read it, and if you have, it'll be a nice review. And for those who haven't, you've got to get it. It's just a short parable type book, super fun and easy to read. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? Now, the gist of it is this. There were these two mice who were named Skiff and Scurry, and two little humans named Hem and Haw. Every morning they'd put on their running shoes and take off through the maze and look for their favorite cheese. Well, eventually they all found that Station C had the cheese. So each morning they'd get ready and head to Station C where they knew the cheese would be. They had a routine and they followed it every day. Well, every morning Sniff and Scurry would run to Station C. And once they got there, they would always tie their shoelaces around their neck to keep their shoes close, just in case they ever needed them. Sniff and Scurry would inspect their cheese every single day, making sure that their supply wasn't getting smaller and making sure the cheese was still good. In the meantime, the little humans, Hem and Haw, would roll out of bed a little bit later in the morning and walk to Station C, and when they got there, they would hang up their jogging outfits, put away their shoes, and put on their slippers, because after all, the cheese would always be there. In fact, they started to see the cheese as their cheese, and so they even moved their homes closer to the cheese, and they start to build a social life around it. Basically, their confidence in the cheese grew in arrogance. They figured that they worked hard to find it, and they felt they deserved it and assumed it would always be there for them. Well, this went on for a long time. Hem and Haw became so confident that they didn't even notice that the supply of cheese was getting less and less. Well, time went on, and then Sniff and Scurry arrived one day and saw that all the cheese was gone. They were not surprised, though. They had been keeping an eye on it and noticed that every day there was less and less cheese. So they knew exactly what to do. They put on their shoes and immediately started looking for more cheese. Well, when Hem and Haw arrived that same day and saw that the cheese was gone, they were in shock. Hem yelled out in anger, "No cheese, no cheese! Who moved my cheese? This is not fair." Well, Hem and Haw went home, got up the next day, and returned to Station C. They figured that there had to be cheese there. It always was. Surely it would be replaced. Well, the situation hadn't changed, and Hem and Haw stood there in shock. Haw just put his hands over his eyes and didn't want to believe this was happening, while Hem yelled out, "Why did they do this to me? What is going on here?" Haw asked Hem, "Well, where do you think Sniff and Scurry are? Do you think they know something that we don't?" Hem answered, "Oh, they're just little mice. What would they know? We are special. We are little people. This shouldn't happen to us. And if it does, we should get benefits." Well, Haw asked, "Well, why should we get benefits?" And Hem said, "Because we're entitled to our cheese." And Haw asked, "Why?" And Hem said, "Because we didn't cause the problem. Someone else did, and so we should get something out of it." Well, then Haw suggested that they just go looking for some new cheese. But Hem was still determined to get to the bottom of this. In the meantime, Sniff and Scurry were busy looking for new cheese. And sure enough, they found it at Station N, the largest and most amazing supply of cheese that they had ever seen. Well, Haw told Hem that they needed to get busy and start looking for new cheese. And Hem said he didn't want to. He said he was comfortable where he was at, and it was familiar territory. So day after day, they would return to Station C, hoping that the cheese would reappear. Finally, Haw couldn't sit there anymore, and so he started putting on his running shoes, while Hem taunted him and said, "Seriously, you are not going to go looking for cheese, are you? Just stay here and wait with me." Well, Haw realized he couldn't change Hem, and now his sights were set on finding cheese. Even just the thought of it invigorated him. He started to get excited and come alive versus being discouraged or fearful of no more cheese. So while Hem was wondering who moved his cheese, Ha was thinking, gee, why didn't I start looking for cheese sooner? Ha soon found out that finding cheese was hard. It didn't come easy. But he kept reminding himself that as hard or as uncomfortable as it was looking for cheese, it was a lot better than sitting at Station C waiting for someone to bring it to him. He felt empowered. He was taking control of the situation, and this felt good. He was now on the move, and it was amazing because he started to see everything differently. He looked back to his time when he was at Station C, and he realized that the cheese was indeed diminishing all along, and that it didn't disappear overnight like he had thought. He remembered that it wasn't tasting as good as it used to, and mold was growing on it, and that none of this really was a surprise after all. He just never anticipated change. He thought things would always be the way he was used to. He realized that Sniff and Scurry were anticipating change all along, and that is why it was so easy for them to pack up and move the moment they saw that there was no more cheese. Ha started to enjoy himself. He started to come alive with these feelings of empowerment. He still wasn't finding cheese, but he loved being on the move. He felt like a new man. Just moving freed him from his old self. He didn't see himself as a victim anymore, but as an agent of change. In fact, he felt optimistic about change versus thinking that change would lead to something worse. Well, Ha found a few morsels of cheese, and so he decided to take some back to Station C, where Hem was still holding on for dear life. He offered the cheese to Hem, and Hem turned it down. It wasn't like his old cheese, he said, that he was used to. Hem told Ha that he wanted his old cheese and wasn't going to change until he got it. So Ha went on his way looking for more cheese. He didn't find a lot at first, just a little bit here and there, but that didn't seem to matter. He was just excited to be on the move and felt empowered and alive that he was going through the maze. He was able to see clearly now and realize that had he not felt entitled or wasn't assuming like he was when he lived at Station C, that he would have started looking for cheese a lot sooner and probably would have found it by now. Ha was now letting go of the past and adapting to the future. Well, sure enough, he found his way to Station N and was overwhelmed with all the cheese. But this time, he tied the shoes around his neck instead of putting them away, because now he knew that change could be just around the corner and he wanted to be ready. If you are over 40, then this parable probably sounds all too familiar to you. You have probably learned this lesson by now. Someone is going to move your cheese, and there will be change in your life if you like it or not. Perhaps through a divorce, the loss of a job, a loss of a family member, an unexpected pregnancy later in life. Perhaps you are now caring for someone when you thought that you would be independent or empty nesters at this time in your life. Or maybe there have been some of you who've had someone in your life that made some choices that left you with the negative consequences that you may have to deal with the rest of your life. Regardless, someone moved your cheese. Hopefully, even as we speak, you have your running shoes tied around your neck, knowing that change is probable and that you are ready for it. Hopefully by now you have learned that playing the role of a victim is not the answer and only stops our progress and keeps us in a miserable place. However, for young people who are growing up very comfortably, enjoying all the luxuries of life with little, if any, effort, many have become like him and feel entitled and are assuming that the cheese or their privileges, money, phone, gaming, car, or any other opportunities such as sports, education, or travel will always be theirs. So then when it's not, they yell out, "This is not fair. Who moved my cheese?" They see themselves as the victim when things don't go the way that they think they should, and they act out in protests, walkouts, temper tantrums. They quit. They blame their parents, teachers, and coaches, and whine and complain when life gets hard or doesn't go their way, almost as if someone promised them or even taught them that the cheese would always be there, versus being like Ha, where they see themselves as an agent of change and take responsibility for their lives. I believe that the young people of today, more than ever, need to feel empowered, responsible, and accountable. And as they do, nothing will stop them from moving forward. But being assuming and entitled cripples them faster than anything I know and completely affects the way they respond to life. Ha saw his entire world differently the moment he saw himself as responsible for his own success and happiness. Dealing with disappointment and change didn't seem to set him back, but it pushed him forward, all because of the way he saw himself. The sooner we teach them and even show them how to keep their running shoes on, and that someone will move their cheese, that nothing is a given, that they are not entitled to anything, then the sooner they will adapt when life doesn't go as they planned or even worked for. Seriously, the young people of today are the brightest and the best that we've ever known. However, many have become their own worst enemy. Him was his own worst enemy, not the absence of cheese. It was his victim mentality. That's what kept him from finding happiness and success. It kept him from moving forward. I wish so bad that there was more that I could do, but in between my speaking assignments, I've been working as a teen life coach. This has been so rewarding. There are a lot of young people who do not need therapy, but could really use a life coach, someone who could help to motivate them, someone who could be another voice in their lives, just like a sports or a dance coach. They can have a life coach to give them tips, especially at a time in their lives when their parents don't know anything and their friends know everything, and little do they know that their friends are just as lost as they are. I remember years ago when I was teaching a young boy to swim, and this boy was swimming all over, and of course, as we did with our method, we loved and praised and high-fived and built up these kids like you wouldn't believe. Well, this boy's aunt brought him to swimming lessons for the first time, and she couldn't believe her eyes. She couldn't believe all the praise he was getting and how good he was doing. And she came up to me afterwards and she said, "Becky, do you by chance teach golf?" And I said, "No, I don't." And her response was, "Oh, I could really use the encouragement." And I realized right then that people just want encouragement. She didn't care how good of a golfer I was or how many years I'd been golfing. She just wanted to be encouraged. People just want someone that believes in them. So I decided that these teens could use a positive influence in their life, a balcony person, an accountability friend to help them at this most difficult time. So this is an exciting journey for me, and I'll share with you some insights in future podcasts as we move along. But now to you parents, I just want to say this. Keep up the good work. I know that you have an uphill battle raising a teenager in these days. It is hard. It's hard on everyone, especially when the world and their friends are teaching them that they are victims, that they need to have this and they need to have that, and that they are entitled to everything free. Boy, it's hard to compete with that. But I also believe that you parents are the best we've ever known. You are smart, you are engaged, and you have so many resources out there. You can do it. It's up to you. Don't give up and don't give in. Help them learn that someone will move their cheese, and it's okay. Growth means change. There are more and better opportunities just around the corner. And at the end of the day, we really wouldn't have it any other way. Well, thanks so much for listening. If you want to contact me, my email is bthomas, and then the number 2, at prodigy, PRODIGY.net, or you can find me on Instagram at Becky Thomas Iyer. Thanks so much for listening and have a great day.